Welcome everyone to Into the West podcast. I'm Charles. With me today are Richard, Ian, and we have on the podcast Max. So today we're going to be talking about Clash on the Coast, which is Canada's largest GT, and we just finished the tournament. And Max is the TO of this tournament.
Hello, everybody.
We all had a great time at this tournament.
That was so much fun!
Max, do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction on Clash on the Coast for anyone watching who's never heard of this event?
Yes, Clash on the Coast is our largest event that we have here in the Northwest Hobbit League. I started it a few years ago with my company, MTM Printworks, to try and give a big event to those that can't quite travel to Nova or Adepticon. And we started the first year with, I think, 52 players. And this year we started the weekend with 70 players in the GT, with 80 unique players playing across the GT, Masters, and doubles over the weekend. Always a fantastic weekend of gaming, and we are going to try and grow those numbers again next year.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about the Armies breakdown of this event, and then we're going to be talking about the top 10 lists. If you want to see all 10 lists reviewed, head over to our Patreon and check out the Patreon version of this episode. Otherwise, for YouTube, we'll be reviewing the top five.
And within that top 10, that won't be making the YouTube cut will be Ian's list. Spoilers. So, you know, if you want to see some Galadriel with Saruman shenanigans, then, go check it out.
Yeah. Before we dive into it, I think this year we've had the most people travel to our event. I think we saw at least four or five people from Eastern US hop on a plane and come over here and play.
Absolutely. Not only the further travelers, but we had at least 10 people out of the island, close to 8 people out of Alberta, some people from all over BC, and then probably 20 to 30 Americans total from Washington and Texas and New Jersey and New York and everywhere.
They were some of the most competitive players in the US as well. So it was a pretty stacked event.
Huge potential for next year.
I'm already hearing like groups talking about like out in Alberta or Michigan or something, and people trying to put a whole group together to come out here. So we could be seeing even more top tier talent coming in for it.
Do you think, Max, that there's a possibility of us hitting 100?
Our goal for minimum is 82 for next year. 82 is kind of what we need to like get to that next size of venue. That said, the next size of venue can accommodate up to 100. So if we get the ball rolling, we could be at least starting ticket sales with 100 people.
That could make it the largest event of North America, potentially.
Dream big, right?
I sent a meme the other day where I was like, all you guys competing for league points, and I'm here competing for largest event.
Before we get started, just want to shout out our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you all for supporting us. If you want to see extra content and check out our list of perks, please see the link in the description.
A special shout out to Ragin Ridge 83, the top supporter of the channel.
All patrons, after supporting us for 1 month, you get a set of custom Baron of dice that has the Into the West symbol on them. So for more information on how to get them, also you could see more in our description. And just to shout out Baron of Dice, they make some great Middle-earth strategy battle game dice, as well as dice for other games. You can use our promo code WEST for 5% off your order. And also thank you to Mithril Brush Painting Competition. They are basically a Middle-earth version of Golden Demon. So if you love painting competitions, if you love checking out really nicely painted models, please see the link in the description on how you can support this competition and how you can enter it yourself.
So going over the breakdown a little bit, this was the GT Good Armies at Clash on the Coast. Seems like a pretty good spread. What do you guys think? I think yellow is a little bit larger than I would expect.
I think that there was quite a few soup list people trying to get like one last go of it. I know one of my good friends, Corey, was running a pretty extreme mix of Mordor, Isengard, and Corsairs, just because he doesn't know if he's going to be able to do it next edition. So, I guess this is the good alliance breakthrough, but I think the yellow alliance for the evil side is still pretty wide.
Yeah, I mean, Well, that's only what, like a sixth of all the lists on the good side were yellow, so it's not like not an insane amount. But there were there were a lot of people just throwing in like the White Council, for example, into lists. I was actually surprised. I thought there'd be like one or two, but no, I think there was like four or five almost that had lists in there with the White Council, which is interesting to see.
I guess I'm a little surprised. I thought at this point of the game, Legendary Legions would probably be as popular as like the pure. So I thought it was a little smaller than expected, but yeah, still the second largest piece of the pie.
Okay. So now we have the evil side.
A lot less soup. It's a lot harder to do evil soup, let's just say that.
This looks more like the expected spread, I think. Mostly pure, a little bit of alliance, and decent amount of legendary legions.
I think this is more just reflects the evil alliance chart. Honestly, like it's hard to get yellow alliances or even green alliances out there. It's mostly going to be pure or legions.
This is the spread of good armies. So we have the most common two armies are Minas Tirith at 7 lists, Battle of Fornost at 5, and then the rest 3 or less.
It's a pretty good spread. I was not surprised at all when the Battle of Fornos started rolling in. I think it's an excellent legion. And a lot of people like have high elves and Minas Tirith. I was like, oh, this is great. This is a great alliance for those two armies. And then Minas Tirith, I think, is just like probably the most popular good side faction. So that's never surprising to see a lot of that one show up.
I mean, maybe not surprising overall, but still seeing like it's more than 12, I think, lists because you have those two, plus you have some other like Ministry of Alliance lists. So like that's a ton of lists showing up with Ministerial and just like a bunch of tin cans, which is kind of wild. When you think about it, like it's a very significant proportion has Ministerial once you count in the Fornost and all the other stuff.
Yeah, you have 4 other lists that are Minas Tirith with an ally. So
That's crazy. So 16 out of 70? Holy crap.
That's 23%.
Yeah, holy shit.
Almost a quarter with Minas Tirith.
and for evil, it's a little bit more even. We have 3 Morias, 3 Mordors, and then the rest are 2 and 1.
Something I was surprised about that nobody in the GT was taking any of the new evil legions from Rise of Angmar. In the doubles, we had 2 sets of the Wolves of Angmar, and I thought that was very cool. But nobody tried out the new legion. Both Angmar lists that were submitted did make use of a new character. So one had Alderak and one had the Shadow of Rudar, but neither of them were any of the new legions, and I was just very surprised about that.
But they both had Gully, didn't they?
They did, yes.
Yeah. There it is.
Yep. Same old, same old.
Everybody wants Gully while they still can. I think that might be why. But I agree. I was shocked there wasn't that much Angmar.
And maybe Richard can comment on this, but I think like people that play competitively might not know how to use those new Angmar shade like characters. So the new shade profile and the Shadow of Rudar, like they look like they need some practice to really get to use really well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we talked about this in previous Legendary Legions tier list. We agreed that the Host of the Witch King is the best evil legion in that book, and it is very hard to use and probably like still being figured out. I know there's some competitive ways coming out, but people are probably still like tinkering with it. And then I also think that there's probably some fear that there's going to be a lot of Arnor and Battle of Fornos, which there is. And those are pretty decent counters against, especially Arnor. One Arnor, yeah.
Also, I think maybe this is like the edition wrap up, and people are just like, I'm just gonna play with some of my favorites because things are gonna change very soon. So just bring something safe, something they're familiar with. Into list number 5, we have Jake DeLuey, the Battle of Fornos Legendary Legion. So he has his leader Glorfindel, On Asploth with Armor of Gondolin, leading one High Elf warrior with banners, shield, and spear, five High Elf warriors with spear and elf bow, and five High Elf warriors with shield and spear. And then he had Erener, Last King of Gondor, with armored horse and lance, leading three knights with shield, six warriors of Minas Tirith with shield, three warriors of Minas Tirith with shield and spear, one warrior of Minas Tirith with shield, spear, and banner, and two rangers of Arnor with spear. And then Warband 3 is Círdan, leading two High Elf warriors with shield, three High Elf warriors with spear and shield, and one High Elf warrior with elf bow and spear. And then the last Warband is a Dunedain, leading four Hobbit archers.
I love the Hobbit archers. I love that he added those in.
I think he did max the bows, much to the complaining on our Patreon when he posted it. Yeah, this is I guess one of the two builds we see thrown around a lot at 800 is either if you go for the Dunedain or the Minas Tirith Captain. I don't know what the better build is. It's easier for him to hit the numbers here with this though when he gets the double banner, which I know he likes. So fight five basically across the whole line because you can spread those elves out, and then getting banner coverage over the whole line is big.
I will say, personal bias, I played him in round 4, and those hobby archers with the Dunedain did work on me. So I think it's a good choice.
They're deceptively good. Like you just place them somewhere, and they're quite cheap points wise, and they can usually deliver something to you.
Yeah. But my understanding is I think the way he plays them is you just kind of like put them down and then just forget about them and they just like on a flank and they just shoot the whole game. Like, if I play 6 rounds of these guys shooting, hitting on threes, they'll probably do something.
Having played this Legion twice in this tournament, I it's one of those lists that don't have many weaknesses. I think the only big weakness here is the lack of might. And I think that's why the Dunedain pick is actually pretty solid. It's just cheap might kind of thrown in as well. You don't really want to be calling heroic moves with Glorfindel and Erener as well. So then right now you're sitting with Círdan in the back where he is perfectly positioned, but he just has the one might. So it's a nice splash here.
Yeah. Like you definitely don't want to call it the inner, right? Because the closest hero he can see, he's zipping in there, and that's going to screw you over for how you, even if you want to like maneuver your line or do whatever, right? And then Glorfindel, he's your leader, so you don't really want to be spending. You want to save his might to be defensive with him or go after other models, right? So it's interesting, but I think just having Círdan in there, it really does round out the list really well. Just access to all those spells is huge.
It's just a really good battle line, like with the
Yeah,
double banner too.
yeah.
I don't see a lot of like armies like breaking this
No,
army.
I mean, conversely though, if it does run up into like a D6, D7 spam army, it's probably not going to break them. So there is that, but yeah, just the utility it has, I think it probably can like out objective other armies like that.
I can see maybe the captain being the better pick if it was not Veto, but I think this is definitely the way to go in a Veto pack. So in fourth place, we have Eli with his Assault on Lothlorien list. So in Warband 1, he had Musger leading an orc with banner, shield, and spear, a wargrider with throwing spear and shield, and 13 orcs with spear. Then he had Druzag with the bat swarm and 11 goblins with orc bow and three prowlers. And then he had a wild warg chieftain with a bat swarm and three wild wargs. And then an orc shaman leading a wargrider with shield and throwing spears, and then 11 orcs with spears. The last warband, he has a goblin shaman leading a bat swarm, three prowlers, and 8 goblins with bow.
I mean, it's pretty obvious how he plans to set up, right? It's going to be goblin bows and prowlers up front, and then the orc spears in behind. It's a little bit of a non-standard build for AOL, but to be fair, I don't know what a standard build for AOL is anymore with the change to Musger because having to take the 50% orcs is a little weird. I do think it's very interesting that he decided to go for the double shaman, so one orc shaman and one goblin shaman. That was interesting. Not surprising, I guess, because I know Richard, I think you've done that before, so you can get the double immobilizes out and you get the double furies out on everybody, which is nice. But the other thing is triple bats. That is wild. He always has bats where he needs them to be. And having played against him, yeah, there is always a bat where he needs it to be. And it's super frustrating.
Yeah, I think I've dabbled with several different builds. I think I've talked about the Wild War Chief being pretty good. Right now, I'm leaning towards like a Goblin Captain and maybe like a Warg Marauder instead of the Wild War Chief. Like the Warg Marauder is just so good in this build because you get like basically free harass. You can move full, you have the 18-inch range. You can always shoot basically. It's the best like harass tool in the game. And the Wild War Chief is nice, but in Pool 6, it's just dangerous. In Assassination or Fog of War, there's such a big chance of him getting wounded. Like, you don't even want to cast Enrage on him. It's just rough. That's where I stopped taking Wild War Chief as much because just the risk of that pool mostly.
Do you guys remember the first clash when we had like 7 assaults on Lorians?
Yeah, I was one of them.
I like it. He clearly did very well with it, and he's had this kind of wraps up in an amazing year that he's had, like from winning in Nanaimo and once or twice in my office, and this is a very good list, I think.
Yeah, so he was actually the only other person who went undefeated. So one of two.
He only had one major win though, or all the rest of them were all minor wins, I think. But it must have been though if he considering where he finished. Wow.
He had one major win.
Yeah. Yeah,
According
the
to
rest of
Longshanks,
yeah.
Beautiful Donkey was his
Yeah.
only major win.
And all the rest of his games are all they're minor wins, but they're by really small margins too. Oh, does this give credit to what the Duran show was saying? It's minor wins, it's not major wins most of the time.
I don't know. I personally have not really experienced that, but I think it really depends on matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he is relatively new to the list too, so he's just kind of trying to have some fun with it. So that does make a difference.
All right, on to number three. So in our third podium spot, we have Scott Altman with his classic Isengard list. So the leader of this army is Saruman on a horse, leading two Crebain, two Berserkers, five orcs with shield, four orcs with spear, and one orc with spear and banner. And then he had Vrasku leading five Urkai with crossbows, and then Thryden Wolfsbane on a horse leading one Dunlending horseman, five Urkai with shield, three Dunlending Huskarl, and two Orc warriors with spear and shield. And then the final warband, he had the Wildman Oathmaker leading six Wildmen of Dunland, four Orc warriors with spear, and two Dunlending Huskarls, with a total of 46 models.
So having listened to Scott talk a lot about this on the Patreon, I'm amazed that there's this many Urkai in there. I would expect, two berserkers and that's it, but there's a lot more there than I thought.
Having only listened to him at dinner, uh, this is a much themier list than I would have expected from him. Having now met and talked to him in person, nothing screams like min-maxing competitive here, except for like the mix of troops. But like it looks like I can see where you're kind of going with it.
No, he's gonna take that personal max. He min maxes this every single day for the last 6 months, and you're telling him it's not min maxed.
You haven't seen our list board on the Discord just spammed every day with different versions of the same list.
So I actually played this in the last round. I think what is cool is that he does kind of have tools for everything. He's going for a as well rounded as you can in pure Isengard. He doesn't ever really come up against a matchup where he just dies against. Like big hero, yes, he's got like Saruman against like stuff that can't go against magic. He's got like the Saruman Thryden combo that he can one-shot heroes with. And then the Uruk-hai really help his like line to line battle. The only thing is I know why he did it, that he didn't take Grima because of like numbers and he wanted to Crebain. but I I don't know. Somehow if he could have added Grima in here, I think I think that would be like next level scary, just given the pools that we played too.
Can somebody remind me what the Wildman Oathmaker does? Is he just a captain or does he do something cool?
3 might, and he makes all the wildmen within 6 auto pass courage tests.
Oh, well, perfect.
Uh,
That's the tool right there.
but he only has 6 wildmen, right? I'd expect him to bring a lot more with that. I forget what the wildman Oathmaker's heroics are. He might just be mostly a might battery
He
hero.
just has strength.
Yeah, so it's just a might battery and a little bit of fearless then around.
He has courage stuff elsewhere, right? He has the two berserkers, and then all the Husk rolls have bodyguard. So
Well, I think the Oathmaker is fearless himself, isn't he? So
Yeah. Yeah.
not that I don't know if Scott actually ended up breaking it all in any of the games. He doesn't break till 33% anyway, so I don't know if it actually matters that much. I'm
So
assuming it's more for cheap bodies to throw at terror.
so he broke in our game and we played the objective pool. So what was cool was that he had the Oathmaker's Warband actually run like the flank for a side objective. So when he did break against me, that whole warband was essentially fearless. So and that was like away from Saruman because, obviously he's not worried about the rest. So it's interesting. I think there is logic behind the madness.
Except for the lack of crossbows.
He could have more.
Yeah, should have maxed them.
They did work against me, so
He complained to no end how they were doing nothing against everybody else, though.
in second place, we have our podcast's own Richard. Would you like to go over your list?
all right, dirty soup. Like Max said, yes, I do have some shame, but this is the last time to really use it, so no regrets.
Hey, Richard.
Boo! Boo this man!
You know that meme? I know this one.
It's Galadriel as the leader, leading one Galadrim with banner, shield, spear, three with shield, three Galadrim with elf bow and spear, and two Galadrim warriors with just bows, and three guard of the Galadrim court. In the second warband, we have Theodred with horse and shield, leading three warriors of Rohan with throwing spear and shield, four warriors of Rohan with shield, four outwalkers, one outrider, and one royal guard with throwing spear and horse. And then we have Forlong the Fat on a horse, leading three axemen, three men at arms, and two clansmen. And then finally, we have Gwahir. I mean, it's got a lot of everything. Again, it's trying to be like as well-rounded as possible. The main idea is Galadriel comboing with Theodred and Gwahir. So like those are common combos of like, if there's an out of position hero, that's a instant assassination right there. The Forlong contingent is mostly to add the men at arms to kind of give an efficient pipeline with the guard of the Galadrim court. So, I that gave me basically three ranks of fight six, rolling four dice. So it actually worked very well in this tournament meta because there was a lot of fight five, a lot of elf armies. Yeah.
Was the 3 ranks enough? It's just such a small amount of guys only getting the extra dice in the fight six. I would have thought you'd gone for more.
Sometimes like it did feel like I would need more, but I think the main thing was just keeping the center of the line. And then I had a decent amount of numbers on the side. And also like right beside like the main line, I have my big heroes. So if Theodred and Forlong are jumping in, those are kind of filling the side of the lines, right? So if you account for those hero bases and stuff, my line is actually quite wide and just the center is quite intact. So it'll come down to dice on the sides, but consistently I was just kind of winning right in the middle.
And I guess you also have a bird to go cover the sides as well. Big scary bird.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then yeah, a couple throwing spears and then like Warrior Rohan are piercing striking. So some killing power in there. The clansmen, you can mix it in. So I was quite, happy with my weekend performance. I did go 5-0 here. So the first two rounds, I was able to get a 12-0. In the third round, I played Baz's Dragon Emperor, and then I played fifth place Jake Deluise Battle Fornost. And then in the last round, I played the third place Isengard Scott. So I thought I had a pretty strong like strength of schedule, and I was happy with my play, and I I thought the list, yeah, performed where I wanted to. Like at times, I will say like against the Dragon Emperor and Battle Fornost, I was probably losing the fight, but I was able to like hold the objectives. I'm not saying it's like the best battle line ever, but I do think it has a mix of the tools and the battle line. So in a fight that you don't end up winning or advantageous in, then you have the birds, you have like the cavalry to do other stuff. And like 12 might is quite good at 800 points.
I think this kind of settles the debates we were having beforehand. If your version of this is better than the kind of soupier one that I was running, I think you do it well because you are more well rounded than my version of the list. Considering you went into two or three, I guess you did two Battle of Fornos and Host of the Dragon Emperor, right? So this typically doesn't go well into Fight 5 D6 spam, which is basically what you fought three out of your 5 games and you won them all. So that is pretty impressive. The Fight 6 double ranked was paying off, I guess.
One question for you, and I guess for Ian too. Do you feel like how this tournament went was a good send off for Soups?
I think it was a success.
He was only foiled by my own scoring system, which has now messed him up 2 years in a row.
Oh, not in a row.
I don't know.
Last year was my fault. First year. The first
Oh,
year was
okay.
I went undefeated as well.
Last year was him only getting a minor win over me in the last round.
We're always looking at the scoring system, so maybe next year it will be in Richard's favor.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, Charles, I think it was good. I mean, we'll get into the last list, but I think our top 10 here kind of shows off the soup builds pretty well, and maybe some people have a point that they are kind of getting a little, well, maybe not egregious, but there's a point that people are making that, hey, let's cut down on the soup because everybody's just running it and it is a little too good. But I think that's more on the models themselves. Well, maybe not on the models themselves. Maybe it is on the alliance matrix. We'll see. Doesn't matter in a couple months from now.
Yeah, so bringing up the scoring system, basically Richard was undefeated and he was leapfrogged by a player that had a loss. So with 4 win, 1 loss, and we'll get into the first place list, which was last year's Clash on the Coast winner, Andrew Palmieri, who won his last game against me and leaped over Richard and Scott's top table.
I just want to say again, I know this one.
Yeah. So somewhat of a similar list to Richard's list. So this is a Lothlorien Rohan Misty Mountains Fellowship Alliance. The leader here is Gladriel again, 4 Gladrim with shield, 2 with spear and shield, 1 with banner, 1 with spear and bow, and 3 court guard. And then we have Theodred with shield and horse, leading 8 warriors with shield, 5 outriders on foot, and a royal guard on horse. And then Guahir and Boromir of Gondor with shield and horse. So total of 34 models.
Okay, so just looking at his schedule, at least the army lists that he played against. Again, in mind that this can struggle. This went into 2 Battle of Fornos and 2 Hosts of the Dragon Emperor in the first 4 rounds. That's wild.
I will say though, one thing I do like about Andrew's list better than mine is him being able to deal with Fight 5. So I actually think he made a slightly better read of the meta. I took like the slightly stacked pikes to kind of offset it a little bit, but Forlong is weak against Fight 5 warriors. Whereas he has Boromir of Gondor, who has no fears at all. He's going to go chop, and that is worth easily the 2 models that I have on him. So I think actually his record shows that he is laughing when he's playing the Dragon Emperor. Like that this is like one of the only armies that is not afraid of the Dragon Emperor at all.
I mean, I think it's a little afraid, but it does have a lot of better tools. Yeah, with a a 6 might fight 6 hero on the horse that could just ride it and just destroy that line, right? And I guess the record does show he does have two very big wins against the Dragon Emperor. So there you go.
Yeah.
Even though he had a loss, I think looking at his Longshanks, like the his record was pretty impressive. So he basically his wins goes 12-0, 12-0, 10-0, 11-0, and his loss was a 7-9 loss. So he was the 7 VPs. So,
Yeah.
that's incredibly high scoring. I couldn't have topped that for VP wise because we did tie on
That's
TPs, but he had 8 more VPs than me, even though he
yeah.
had a loss.
That is crazy. All the wins being double digit wins is crazy. And his loss was 7 VPs anyway. Like that's crazy.
And now I have to ship a sword all the way across North America.
Yeah, too bad I couldn't win it. Then
Here, Turkey's now saved me postage.
It's your scoring system, Max.
I changed it, and I like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then the same thing happens. I'm like, oh, I see.
Onwards and upwards,
Canadians, you just do better.
always learning, right?
hey, you guys talking crap on me. I'm looking at this. I'm the only Canadian in the top five, and then Ian and Jordan rounding out 9 and 10. I don't know. We need more representation up here.
We kind of got roasted in the American SBG comment section when they posted the results of Clash. And it's like, do the Canadians even know how to play? And I wanted to go check the lower results and see if we had any. And it was like Ian and Jordan at 9 and 10. I'm like, oh no.
Okay, so that comment is from Cody though, Cody Hensley. So he's an official troll, so we could just
Oh,
ignore that.
okay. I don't
Yeah.
know who this person is.
Jordan and I still got our 4 wins. What more do you want from us?
Five. 5 wins.
Eli, would you like to immigrate to Canada? We would love to have you.
Coach another good player there. Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, so I think overall, like honestly, this is like one of the most or best events that I have been to. And, I've traveled around for events and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say like really great job, Max. Honestly, getting better every year.
Not
Thank
even
you.
just the GT, but also Friday we had the Masters tournament
Mhm.
and also doubles as well. A lot of people had fun at the doubles. And this was also our league's final event. So we also had the awards for the 2024 league. So a lot happened. Definitely, if you can make it out there next year, please check it out.
This year it was a little bit stressful just because of a couple of things all popped up at the last minute, including just the most terrible pub night I've ever put together. I apologize to all this.
We we
Most of the
came,
people were gone by the time things got bad, but
we did come away with stories though
yeah,
that
so,
will be
so
remembered for a
next year
while.
will be the
memorable.
reputable establishment reminiscing about the worst pub in Langley.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen exactly how big will be next year. My hope is 82 players or more, but we will see when tickets go on sale in April or May.
Nova was 84 this year, right? So that is beatable. It is achievable.
I definitely think it's very possible, if not just straight up likely, because for anyone listening, Clash on the Coast, I think sold out in like 36 hours or something like that. So that was 70 tickets. So, you know, mark it on your calendar. I think Max, you usually put on the tickets around April, May-ish. Is that going to be the case?
Yeah, it's almost certainly going to be the case unless we need to do some weird calendar realignment where the date gets moved. But I'm almost certain it's going to be in October, and I'm almost certain that the tickets will go on sale in early May.
And even though I'm not proud of it for any internationals, especially Americans, Canada is dirt cheap for you. So if you want to come to a tournament, world-class tournament at a discount, this is the one to go to.
Monopoly money. Let's go.
All right. Thanks, Max, for coming on to talk about some lists with us.
Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you next time.